They say every neighborhood has that one person, the self-appointed sheriff of the block, armed not with a badge, but with a clipboard and a permanent scowl. In my neighborhood, that person had a name, Karen. Now imagine this. You've worked your whole life to own a piece of land by the water, a rare slice of peace where you can invite your friends, fire up the grill, and let the kids splash in the lake without a care in the world. But just when the laughter is loudest and the drinks are coldest, here she comes, stomping across the grass like she owns the place, ready to ruin everything. And the reason? Because in her twisted world of HOA power trips, nobody is allowed to be happy without her permission. What she didn't know, though, was that today she was about to pick the wrong fight. The peace at the lake didn't last long. Barely half an hour later, as we were flipping burgers and the kids were back to laughing in the water, Karen returned. But this time, she wasn't alone. She had reinforcements. 2 HOA board members trailing behind her like nervous bodyguards, clearly dragged along for one of her infamous crusades. She marched right up to me, sunglasses still perched on her nose, even though clouds had rolled in. With that same high-pitched authority she loved to use, she declared, "We've decided your guests are trespassing. They need to vacate immediately or consequences will follow." Her voice carried across the lake. Neighbors who hadn't been watching before now leaned over decks and fences, eager for the next round of drama. I raised an eyebrow. "You decided? Last I checked, decisions about my property don't go through your little committee. Why don't you go ahead and check the county plat maps before you embarrass yourselves further?" The 2 HOA members looked uncomfortable, shuffling their feet. They knew Karen had a reputation for overstepping, but they didn't dare cross her. Karen, of course, wasn't fazed. She turned to them, waving her clipboard like a holy book, as if the sheer sight of paper made her right. "See? He's being combative. He's hostile. This is exactly why we need rules, to protect the neighborhood from people like him." The crowd chuckled again. Someone even muttered, "Here she goes," loud enough for her to hear. Karen's face darkened. "Laugh all you want. I've already contacted the sheriff's office. They'll be here any moment. And when they see what's happening, you'll be the one getting fined, not me." Now, most people would have panicked hearing that. Guests started shifting uncomfortably, whispering about leaving before it got worse. But I knew something Karen didn't. I'd already spoken to the county when I purchased the property. The lakefront section was deeded exclusively to me. The HOA had no legal authority here. So I smiled, calm as ever. "Good. Let them come. I'll be waiting with my paperwork." Karen wasn't expecting that. For a second, I swear she looked nervous. But then she puffed up again, yelling, "Fine. We'll see who's laughing when the cops show up." And so we waited. Drinks were poured. Kids kept playing. Neighbors lingered longer than usual just to watch the chaos unfold. It was like a live soap opera, with Karen as the star. When the sheriff's SUV finally rolled up, Karen strutted forward like she was about to hand over a criminal. She pointed at me, practically shrieking, "That's him. That's the one violating HOA property rights." The sheriff stepped out slowly, tipped his hat, and looked me dead in the eye. "Sir, can I see your paperwork?" I didn't even flinch. I handed over the deed, neatly folded in a plastic sleeve. The sheriff read it, nodded, and turned back to Karen. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but firm, "this land isn't HOA property. It's private. He's got every right to host whoever he wants here." The silence that followed was pure gold. You could have heard a pin drop on the dock. Then, from the crowd of neighbors, came a snicker, then another, until the whole shoreline rippled with laughter. Karen's face went crimson. She sputtered, tried to argue, but the sheriff shut her down with a raised hand. "Enough. If you keep harassing him, you'll be the one facing charges." Her clipboard nearly slipped from her hands. For the first time, Karen didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, frozen, while her bodyguards stared at the ground, embarrassed. And me? I just leaned back in my chair, lifted my drink, and said, "Told you so." The sheriff's SUV hadn't even pulled away before Karen tried to salvage what little pride she had left. She stammered something about misunderstandings and community standards, but everyone could see it. The queen of HOA drama had just been dethroned. Neighbors who had tiptoed around her for years were now whispering openly, shaking their heads, even laughing. You could feel it. The power she once held over everyone was cracking. One of the HOA board members finally spoke up, his voice quiet but steady. "Karen, we're not backing you on this anymore. You've gone too far." That was the nail in the coffin. She spun around, eyes wide, betrayed by the very people she had bullied into following her lead for so long. For once, she had no audience, no control, no authority. Just silence, broken by the sound of kids still playing happily in the water behind us. I leaned forward, my tone calm but firm. "Karen, let me make this clear. This land is mine. You don't set the rules here, and you don't get to harass my family and friends. If it happens again, I'll file charges for harassment. Do I make myself clear?" She glared, lips pressed so tightly they turned white. But she didn't argue. She couldn't. The sheriff's warning still hung heavy in the air. By the next HOA meeting, word had spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know how Karen, the self-proclaimed guardian of the community, had been humiliated in front of half the block. Parents chuckled over it at school pickup. Retirees replayed it on their porches, and even the usually silent residents seemed to walk a little taller. The board, embarrassed by the spectacle, quietly stripped her of her enforcement duties. No more storming into yards with clipboards, no more threats of fines, no more power trips. And me? I got exactly what I wanted, peace. From that day on, every barbecue, every gathering, every splash in the lake was ours to enjoy without her shadow looming over it. Every once in a while, I'd catch her watching from her porch, seething, powerless. And I couldn't help but smile. Because this time, justice had been served. Not just for me, but for everyone who had suffered under her reign of petty tyranny. It's funny how one moment can flip the balance of power. All it took was a deed, a sheriff, and the truth. And Karen? She learned the hard way. You can't win a battle when you're standing on the wrong side of the law. And that's how it all went down. One Karen, one sheriff, and a whole lot of neighborhood karma. Honestly, it still makes me smile every time I look out at that lake, knowing she can't touch it anymore. If you enjoyed watching Karen get exactly what she deserved, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps push these stories out to more people who love a good justice ending. And hey, I've got plenty more HOA nightmares and Karen meltdowns to share, so don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you'll never miss the next episode of Chaos. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What's the wildest HOA or entitled neighbor story you've ever witnessed? Drop it in the comments below, and who knows, maybe your story will end up featured in a future video. Until next time, stay patient, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is just letting the truth do the talking.